हमको मन की शक्ति देना, मन विजय करे, दूसरों की जय से पहले खुद का जय करे। हमको मन की शक्ति देना, मन विजय करे।
A journey out of degradation begins with an exchange of cultures. The oppressed are not alone in the world. Others before them have struggled for rights and dignity.
Can you wear it here?
No.
You can't wear it here?
The story of struggle is universal. Change comes only when one atrocity in a history of thousands finally spawns outrage. In 1986, 4 Indian civil rights workers were brutally murdered by members of the ruling class. Their crime? Defending the rights of the Dalit, the long oppressed underclass living lives of servitude and poverty as the untouchables. The atrocity sparked a groundswell movement. For the first time, nearly a dozen upper-class men would be convicted to life in prison for the murders. Yet, nearly 2 decades since, the plight of Dalit continues. Yearly, they are discriminated against, harassed, beaten, even lynched by the upper class with near impunity. While restricted to the lowest and the most demeaning employment in society. Despite numbering over 250 million, most resign themselves to live without prospect for change or hope. But half a world away, a strangely similar atrocity had a different outcome. In 1964, 3 civil rights workers were murdered in the United States trying to protect the rights of the country's most oppressed minority, millions of African Americans. The killing awoke America in its violent racism. In the decades that have followed, reports from atrocities have become increasingly rare in America. Why India has not changed is a question that intrigues Navsarjan Trust, a non-government organization, an NGO fighting to end violence against the Dalit. As one of 4 social workers from Gujarat, we sent out to discover from African American how they succeeded where the Dalits are. We wanted to know the history of African American oppression and the lessons learned in their struggle against discrimination. It is a journey that takes Sunita, Sushma, Indu and me Nisha 17,000 miles away to the heart of this history in America, a place called Mississippi. Here are hundreds of thousands of square miles of cotton fields. During the first century of the US Republic, much of the nation's southern wealth came from rich cotton harvested by slaves from Africa. A civil war freed the slaves in 1865, but regional laws and customs allowed the white ruling class to continue to dehumanize African Americans for nearly a century more. By the mid 20th century, an organized civil rights movement gained enough momentum to change laws and attitudes. In Clarksdale, Mississippi, we went in search of this painful legacy. Here, we met many African Americans from all walks of life. Some were storekeepers, some were students, some were laborers, some were housewives. Some were professionals who had reached high prominent positions. Dr. Lily Fierce is a daughter of tenant farmer who is now Director of Communications for a federal economic agency. We were learning that the world African American occupied was complex. Once a few understood the similarities we saw in each of our populations, they invited us deeper into their lives. Here we sensed the emotional and spiritual repository of African American long fights for freedom and human dignity. Here we found we had gained trust for an experiment to exchange experience and questions in what appeared to be our similar struggles. We told them of burden and abuse the Dalit endure with Hindu society, and the struggle of many, including Navsarjan, to affect change. All our guests quickly understood the connection we felt with their history.
Do y'all have a democracy where the people get to vote on who they want to
access.
India is a democratic country, but only this is the political freedom for Dalit people, not economical freedom and not social freedom for Dalits. For other people, yes, there is there. But we only got in 1947 we got the freedom, and that is only political. Situation is still there, discrimination is still there, atrocities on Dalits are still there.
For the past 30 years, the civil rights movement in America, it came a long way. So back 30 years ago, you couldn't go in the drugstore. I had to go in the back. The white, they go in the front. To ride the bus, I had to go in the back. The white go in the front. To have water fountain marked white and black. I could not go to the white water fountain. But during the civil rights within the last 30 days, they moved all those Jim Crow signs. They don't have a white entrance here and a black entrance there. We all go in the same entrance. That's because of the era of the civil rights. So the legislature, the minority, they lobbying their senators, their congressmen, and they pushed this through Congress and got equal right.
They told us that from the 1950s through the 1960s, African Americans organized and demanded change. Lawsuits in federal courts opened education for African Americans to better funded white schools. The change would profoundly change attitudes among all races. Time and again we heard how education had empowered African American community and continued to promise a brighter future. They stressed religious belief, community, and unity as critical to their survival. On an earlier evening, we watched this church use what many consider a frivolous tradition for the young, Valentine's Day, as a time to reaffirm core relationships.
Even at doctor's office we used to go in, they would have a colored waiting room, white waiting room, but now we don't have that anymore here in our area, and they used to lack water hydrant, where you drink water, they will have up over there color or either white. But we don't have that in it. We don't have that anymore. But it took a lot of protesting and prayers and to get us where we are now.
It was wrong for them to, as white people, to do black people like that. All of it was wrong, you know. I just thank God that I'm born in this generation where I didn't have to face that. You know, like my forefathers, my great-grandmothers might have had to face that. But at the same time, we have to realize that the white generation now is not the same white generation that with the slaves. You see what I'm saying? Just like my grandmother could have been a slave.
Just a few miles away, in the center of Clarksdale, we visited one of the courtrooms where the epoch of America's civil rights struggle in the 1960s was played out. Just a few yards away sat Dr. Lily Fierce, who lived through an educational system still haunted by a past. What marked this new generation of African American to us was self-respect and entitlement to their rights as human beings, characteristics that we may have once only been found among early civil rights leaders.
I am the Director of Communications at Delta Regional Authority here in Clarksdale, and I've been here almost 2 years, about 1 month from being 2 years. And we have to be prepared to take advantage of opportunities that other people are in charge of letting you be a part of. Plus, we need to create and make our own opportunities for ourselves too. I don't think we should just wait and beg other people to let us be a part of things. We need to be in the business of creating and being entrepreneurs.
Now we don't have to be slaves anymore. We can be anything we want to be. A lot of times black people today, they stop themselves from going to the next level. So, but I mean, it's painful to look back on our history, but we have to so that we can know where we come from and appreciate where we are now. Because if you don't go through bad times, you'll never appreciate the good times.
We shall overcome, we shall overcome, we shall overcome one day. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome one day. We shall overcome, we shall overcome, we shall overcome one day. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome one day.
મારું નામ સોલંકી કૈલાસબેન મોહનલાલ છે. મેં 3 મહિના DSKની અંદર ટેક્સટાઇલ ડિઝાઇનિંગનો કોર્સ કર્યો છે અને એ કોર્સ કરીને ઘરે આવ્યા પછી આ જે નાનું મોટું છે પ્રિન્ટિંગ કામ છે, ભરતકામ છે, એ બધું હું કામ કરું છું અને મારો પોતાની રીતે આગવી રીતે હું એ ધંધો ચાલુ કર્યો છે.
કે ગુલામ રહીને વૈભવી જીવન જીવવું એના કરતાં ગરીબી સાથે આઝાદીમાં જીવવું અમને વધારે પસંદ.
The leadership comes from women, and that's what we believe in Navsarjan and Dali Shakti Kendra, that without women's leadership this movement cannot succeed. But then this is a small drop in the ocean, but I'm optimistic and I'm reminded constantly by what Mother Teresa said, that although I know that my work is just a drop in the ocean, but I also know that without that drop, the ocean would have been less complete.